Hello, welcome back as we read Chapter 42, The Strange Family. It was a sweltering afternoon, and the heat had everyone in a bad mood. Roz was standing in the shade watching her son out on the water. The only other goslings were teasing him about something when they suddenly burst into laughter, and Brightbill turned and hurried home with a stormy expression on his face. He stomped into the garden and right past his mother without saying a word. "What is wrong, Brightbill?" said Roz as she followed her son into the nest. "Nothing," he squawked. "Leave me alone. Tell me what is wrong. I don't want to talk about it. Maybe I can help." "Mama, the other goslings were making fun of me." "What did they say?" "They called you a monster and then laughed at me for having a monster mother." "They should know by now that I am not a monster. Would you like me to talk to them?" "No, don't do that. It'll just make things worse." The robot sat next to her son. "Mama, I know you're a robot, but I don't understand what a robot is." "A robot is a machine." "I was not born, I was built." "Who built you?" "I do not know. I do not remember being built. My very first memory is waking up on the northern shore of this island." "Were you smaller back then?" said the gosling. "No, I've always been this size." Roz looked down the surface at her weathered body. "However, I used to be shiny like the surface of the pond. I used to stand straighter than a tree trunk. I used to speak a different language. I have not grown bigger, but I have changed very much." The robot wanted to explain things to her son, but the truth was that she understood very little about herself. It was a mystery how she had come to life on the rocky shore. It was a mystery why her computer brain knew certain things but not others. She tried to answer Brightbill's questions, but her answers only left him more confused. "What do you mean you're not alive?" squawked Brightbill. "It is true," said Roz. "I am not an animal. I do not eat or breathe. I am not alive." "You move and talk and think, Mama. You're definitely alive." It was impossible for such a young goose to understand technical things like computer brains and batteries and machines. The gosling was much better at understanding natural things like islands and forests and parents. Parents? The word suddenly left Brightbill feeling uneasy. "You're not my real mother, are you? You're not my real mother, are you?" "There are many kinds of mothers," said the robot. "Some mothers spend their whole lives caring for their young. Some lay eggs and immediately abandon them. Some care for their offspring of other mothers. I have tried to act like your mother, but no, I'm not your birth mother." "Do you know what happened to my birth mother?" Roz told Brightbill about the fatal day in spring, about how the rocks had fallen and only one egg had survived, about how she'd put the egg in her nest and carried it away, about how she'd watch over the egg until a tiny gosling hatched. Brightbill listened carefully until she finished. "Should I stop calling you Mama?" said the gosling. "I will still act like your mother no matter what you call me," said the robot. "I think I'll keep calling you Mama. I think I will keep calling you son." "We're a strange family," said Brightbill with a little smile, "but I kind of like it that way." "Me too," said Roz. Chapter 43, The Gosling Takes Off. It must be hard to have a robot for a mother. I think the hardest part for Brightbill was all the mystery that surrounded Roz. Where had she come from? What was it like to be a robot? Would she always be there for him? These questions filled the gosling's mind, and his feelings for the mother swung between love and confusion and anger. I'm sure many of you know what it's like. Roz could sense that Brightbill was struggling, and so she spent a lot of time talking with him about families and geese and robots. There are other robots on the island, said the gosling during one of these talks. He'd been sitting beside his mother in the garden, but now stood and faced her. Yes, there are others on the island, said Roz, but they are inoperative. Inoperative? For a robot, being inoperative is like being dead. Where are the dead robots? They are on the northern shore. I want to see them. I do not think that's a good idea. Why not? You are still a gosling. You are too young to see dead robots. I will take you to see them when you are older. Mama, I'm not a gosling anymore. Brightbill puffed out his chest. I'm already 4 months old. I am sorry, said Roz, but you cannot go. Brightbill stomped around the garden and squawked, This isn't fair. I promise I will take you to see them when you are older, said the robot. But I want to go now. Please calm down. You can't even fly. I could take off and you wouldn't be able to stop me. Roz stood and her long shadow fell across her son. The gosling could feel his emotions swinging wildly, and for a moment he was actually afraid of his own mother. Without thinking, he sprinted toward the pond, beat his wings, and flew away. Chapter 44, The Runaway. Your son will be fine, said Loudwing. You know how they are at this age. I do not know, said Roz. Please tell me how they are at this age. All right. Well, Brightbill is growing up fast. He's only natural for adolescent goslings to be. It's only natural for adolescent goslings to be a little moody. He just needs to be alone for a while. You've raised a wonderful son. I know he'll be home soon. Try not to worry. But Roz did worry. At least she worried as much as a robot is capable of worrying. Brightbill had never run away or flown away, and suddenly Roz was computing all the things that could go wrong. A violent storm, a broken wing, a predator. She had to find her son before something had happened. There was only one place Brightbill could have gone, the robot gravesite. So Roz galloped northward. She leaped over the rocks and ducked under branches and charged through meadows without ever slowing her pace. She raced all the way across the island until she finally stepped onto the sea cliffs above the gravesite, and there was Brightbill perched on the edge, looking at the robot parts scattered on the shore below. His eyes were wet. Don't be angry, he said as his mother walked over. I'm not angry, but you should not have flown off like that. You could have gotten hurt or worse. I was worried sick. I'm sorry, Mama. It is okay, said Roz. It is only natural for goslings your age to be a little moody. Mama, I need you to understand what you are, and I think it might help to see those other robots. You are right, it might help. Why are you not down there? I was about to go, said Brightbill, but I got nervous. I want you to go with me. Let us go down there, said Roz, together. Chapter 45, The Dead Robots. The gosling floated on the breeze behind his mother as she climbed down the cliffside. Down they went, past ledges and seagulls and tough little trees, until they were standing on the rocky shore with the cliffs looming behind them. The gravesite had changed. Roz's crate was gone, lost to weather or waves. Some of the robot parts were gone too. Other parts were gritty with sand, or with tangled in seaweed, or were inhabited by small, scuttling creatures. One smashed torso still had a head and legs attached. Roz and Brightbill huddled around the corpse and studied the mess of tubes spilling out. This thing used to look like you, said Brightbill. Yes, we are the same type of robot, said Roz. And now this robot is dead? In a way. Will you ever die, Mama? I think so. Will I die? All living things die eventually. The gosling's face scrunched with worry. Brightbill, you are going to live a long and happy life. Roz laid a hand on her son's back. You should not worry about death. The gosling's face relaxed, and then he pointed to a small round shape on the back of the dead robot's head. What's that? He said. Roz leaned in closer. That is a button, which is a knob on a piece of machinery that can be pressed to operate it. Brightbill began pressing the button. Click, click, click. Nothing is happening, he said, probably because the robot is dead. Click, click, click. Mama, do you have a button? Brightbill watched as his mother's head turned all the way around and a small button came into view. You've got one, he said. I never noticed it before. Neither did I, said the robot. The gosling giggled. Oh, Mama, you have so much to learn about yourself. Roz reached for the button on her head, but her head automatically stopped before she could touch it. She tried with the other hand, but it automatically stopped as well. It seems I cannot press the button, she said. Would you like to try? What will happen? I think that I will shut down, but I think you could simply press the button again to restart me. You think? Squawked Brightbill. What if you're wrong? What if you wake up different? What if you never wake up? Mama, I do not want to shut you down. Roz turned her head back around and saw that Brightbill's face was once again scrunched with worry. She knelt beside him and said, Of course you do not have to shut me down. I am sorry if I scared you. Are you okay? I'm okay. Brightbill sniffed and wiped his eyes. And then he heard splashing. Otters were playing in the ocean. He had never seen otters before. He stared as they swam and dove and sloshed around with one another. They seemed to be having a ridiculous amount of fun, and suddenly the gosling was smiling again. Hello, my name is Brightbill, he shouted over the waves. And this is my mama. Her name is Roz. The last time otters had seen Roz, they had thought she was some kind of monster, but since then they've heard that she was remarkably friendly and that she'd even adopted an orphaned gosling. And so the otters smiled at Roz and Brightbill. Then they swam straight over and splashed onto the rocks. Hello there, said the bigger otter. Nice to meet you both. Nice to meet you both. Actually, Roz, we've met once before, but you might not remember me. My name is Shelley. I do remember you, said the robot, but I'm glad to learn your name, Shelley. You know each other, said the gosling. Those otters were the first animals I ever met, said Roz. They were also the first animals who ever ran away from me. Yeah, sorry about that, said Shelley as the other otters sniffed the robot's legs. You know, Brightbill, when we first saw your mom, She was packed in a box and surrounded by soft, squishy stuff. Bright Bill's brow furrowed. You wouldn't believe how small she looked, all folded up in there. Bright Bill now sniffled. We thought she was dead, but when we reached into the box, she came to life and climbed out looking like a sparkling monster. Bright Bill's eyes welled up with tears, and then he felt his mother swoop him into his arms. Are you okay? She whispered in his ear. I think I've learned enough about robots for today, he whispered back. I am sorry, Otter, said Oz, but we really must be going. I hope I didn't upset the little guy, said Chilly. I thought he'd like to hear how we first met. Bright Bill will be fine, said Roz, using a friendly voice, but we have had a very busy day and we should go home. It was nice to see you again. Goodbye. Roz turned and with her long stride she carried her son away from the graveside and over to the base of the sea cliffs. Would you like to sit on my shoulder as I climb? Said the robot. I feel like flying, said the gosling. I'll meet you at the top. Bright Bill flapped his wings and disappeared into the sky. Roz began scaling the wall. Up she went, expertly negotiating rocky columns and ledges until she hoisted herself onto the cliff top where two young bears were waiting. Tune in next time for the fight.